All right, thank you all for joining us for C1 Engagement, Energy, and Effects, the Power of Youth-Led Work. Our speakers are Megan Joseph and Haley Shamblin. Megan works for Impact Prevention in Ironton, Ohio, where she serves as program manager and an Ohio Certified Prevention Consultant. She's also a proud graduate of Ohio University's Executive Master of Public Administration program. While she began her career as a high school Japanese language teacher, her heart led her to the field of prevention in 2019. In Ohio, she acts as a network leader and regional trainer for the Sources program, doing her best to expand it as far as she can reach. And then we have Haley. So Haley is an OCPSA from Southern Ohio. She has a bachelor's degree and 4 years of experience as a special educator. In 2016, she made the decision to leave teaching and join her mentor, Molly Stevens, at Impact Prevention. From her involvement as a teen, she knew the difference that being involved in youth-led prevention made and wanted to pass that on to youth in her region. She enjoys working with youth of all ages and loves seeing the empowerment that youth-led prevention gives. Haley also enjoys spending time with her children, playing games, and being outdoors. Megan and Haley can take over whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the introduction. So I hope everybody is excited to be here today. I know that we are. We were excited for the opportunity that we were offered to be here. I know I keep saying be here, but anyway. So this is Engagement, Energy, and Effects, the Power of Youth-Led Work. Today we have a goal for our participants to first, we're going to define youth-led prevention and its goals. We're going to identify strategies for empowering youth in planning large-scale projects and events, and learn ways to connect and apply example projects to your own context. So we have a number of experiences that we'd really enjoy sharing with everyone so that we can get youth-led work more promoted throughout the state, whether that's through youth-led prevention work or through sources of strength. So prevention in our schools and communities. So as was mentioned, we work for an organization called Impact Prevention in Lawrence County. We have a number of programs that we run. So we like to say that we wear a lot of different hats. And that kind of looks like just so many different services that come out of our agency. So first we have youth empowerment activities, or YEA, after school and summer mentorship. So with that, we have programming in our local municipal housing authority where young people from the community can come in and have relationship building, team building with one another. This is usually about an elementary and middle school age group. And they have pro-social activities that they get into, and they learn from our high school age youth staff who provide that mentorship piece in the after school setting and also in the summertime. So they have a summer camp that they also run. We offer BOTFIN life skills training, which supports healthy substance-free choices for students. We have Haley here is one of our local trainers for the life skills program, and we also have been implementing in our local schools in order to have this program expanded. We'll be talking a lot today about youth-led prevention, but this is the flagship program of the agency. So inspiring teams through leadership and empowerment through the community level change. That's a process that we will talk a lot about today. We also serve on, and by we, I mean Molly and Haley, they serve on the Ohio Youth-Led Collectives Leadership Team. And we support the Handle with Care program in Lawrence and Scioto counties, and also Sources of Strength. So I serve as a regional trainer for Sources of Strength, and we help facilitate the secondary level program in our local schools by providing trainings and connecting with the youth in the schools.
Just to give you a little feedback, while we were creating this slide, we really wanted to show you all, I don't want to say busy, but how active our youth-led teams are. So all these pictures, aside from the one where my mouth is wide open, and I tried to find one where my mouth wasn't open, it just didn't happen. But the other three pictures all happened just from January to now. So one is a picture of our summit. The one that's outdoors was an overnight event we held for our youth council kids, and you'll be hearing from one of them and some other feedback from all of them in just a little bit. And then the picture on the bottom is actually our county commissioners. So we have great relationships with that that county and their commissioners, and they allow our kids not just to come in and speak, but truly just sit down and have roundtable discussions with them. So just wanted to give you a quick snippet of like how active and some of the different things our youth are doing in our community. All right, so a quick overview of youth-led prevention. Again, thank you for allowing me into this space. Megan has been very, very involved and a champion of sources for a long time, but I only learned about sources from Megan, and she does a great job at that, but we're always so busy. So it was nice to kind of take a time out of my day to hear from other people and just hear like what is sources and what's it accomplishing in our state. So it was really a fun day to just hear from other people. So one of the things we do when we go into a school when we're just starting a youth-led prevention group. So Impact, we have over 22 schools that have youth-led teams in them. So one of the first things we do is we talk to them about how is youth-led different from your 4-H group or from your prom committee or whatever youth clubs you have going on. One thing we do is we let the kids talk about how is youth-led different. Sometimes we do this through Play-Doh. We allow them to create it and talk about why, how can I shape this to look different from others? Sometimes we allow them to use Lego. Sometimes they draw it. But the 4 things we really want them to hit on when they're talking about what makes us different, what makes youth-led prevention, YLP different, is number 1, the science and theory behind it, right? This is backed by science and by things that actually show that they are community change agents, that they're moving a needle, that we're looking at data, that there are theories and that there are models that are backing them up in their decision-making process. The number 2 place is that we want to make sure that they know that they're not just receiving, that they're actually giving. Our kids go to school every day and often just receive, right? They receive history lessons, they receive science lessons, they're being talked at and not talked with. So we want to tell them that youth-led prevention is not that. Christy did a great job, for those of you all that were in the session with her, talking about that ladder and just talking about how we can make our youth-led programming or any programming with young people at a higher step on that ladder to where we're not just giving, but we're actually allowing them to be the driving force, which it goes again with the spearheading the implementation. It's not just about the talking, but they're the ones at the front end of the implementation. They're the ones that are actually doing the work. And then preparing for the workplace. So I would like to ask those of you all who are in youth-led or those of you all who work with youth at all, if you don't mind in the chat, if you were to say, my hope for my youth, if you could give me 1 to 2 skills that you hope your students gain, not just from you, but just from the work that they're involved in. If you guys would take just a minute to type in the chat, what are some skills that you hope your youth are gaining? Confidence, love it. Critical thinking, a sense of purpose. And that is one thing when I'm doing my trainings for life skills or when I'm working with any adults. You guys probably have heard of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like we all have that, we need that sense of belonging, right? And that's one of the things I feel like kids really gain from youth-led prevention. Communication, empowerment, effective refusal, love that. Ownership, problem solving. So here's just a list of what youth-led prevention states that we're giving kids. Problem solving, decision making, leadership, organizational skills. I could use that one. When Megan signed on with us, she was like the best binder creator. She would just show up with these big binders. I'm like, Megan, make me a binder. But yes, we're teaching it. I'm not great at it, but we're teaching it. Resilience, which also goes with that refusal. Strategic planning, communication, data analysis, presentation skills, civic awareness, and collaboration. So all those skills at some point in the youth-led module are being, I don't want to say given, but they're being implemented into what the kids learn. And when we allow our kids to share out, one of my favorite skills that my kids learn is the ability to pivot. I think of this time we were running an overnight camp and these kids had planned to do bracelets. They picked out the bracelets, they ordered them from Amazon, they told us exactly how they were going to do it, and then we get to camp and it just doesn't work. And just seeing those kids pivot and switch, okay, we're going to do this now. We're going to make lanyards. Okay, that didn't work. And I swear by the end of that, they ended up with like this whole creation of like little fidgets and things. And I just remember going to them afterwards and being like, man, you stuck with that. Like you just persevered over the silliest little thing of bracelets, but just teaching them like sometimes in life things aren't going to go perfect. And how do we pivot? So we have found like the data shows that kids that have been in the youth-led programming, they are much more prepared for the workplace based on the skills that you all listed and the skills that youth-led prevention promises to give our kids.
Very nice. So how to engage youth in the process. The big piece is youth empowerment. So facilitating that empowerment or allowing them to make that transition from adult-led strategies to one that is more youth-based. So as Haley mentioned, when students are in schools, they are receiving programming. We want them to feel empowered in their ability to implement those things that they want to accomplish. So we are not going to be a boss in this approach. We want our youth to be our coworkers. We want to be able to support them and provide that guidance, but at the same time, allow them to feel that they have that power to make positive change. And we'll talk a little bit more later about how to be an effective adult ally. So we're going to provide those opportunities to build confidence. So sometimes you might not see, sometimes you see students who are still coming into their own, and you see that potential, and it's allowing them the space to see that there is a world for them that they can build in order to make everything around them a suitable fit for not just themselves, but a fit for other youth as well. And with that, allowing those youth to support other youth in the understanding of youth-led. It's not our job necessarily to go in and say, this is what youth-led is, this is what we do, here's how you're going to do it, because at its core, that's not youth-led. We want our youth to be able to onboard other youth. We engage our youth in the process of saying, what should our youth council look like? So one of the things that we didn't mention is, although we do offer youth-led programming in schools, and we help facilitate that in, I believe, how many teams do we have in Lawrence and Stone County?
Over 22.
Over 22.
Should I have the specific one?
Yeah, so we help facilitate those programs in over 22 different schools between the two counties we typically operate in. But we also have a countywide youth council, and they meet out of school to make these community programs. And with that, those conversations happen in the way of, rather than us going in and saying, okay, you guys are now our youth council, it's often other youth who will approach them and say, hey, you're a really good fit for this, and here's why. And so our youth have those strategies that they can use, and those they understand what the needs are of the community. They know how other youth fit in that, and they empower them to become involved in the process. So here we have, in this picture, we have our young people having met with our county commissioners. And so this was an opportunity that we took, and the youth really drove into, was rather than taking a strategy that is typically adult initiated and saying, okay, we're going to meet with the county commissioners and we are going to make sure that they have a declaration of Red Ribbon Week. I don't know why that wasn't coming to me.
It's hard to say.
Red Ribbon Week declaration, or proclamation, rather than having adults do that, the youth are involved. And so they're the ones who are going to our county commissioners and building those relationships at the countywide level in order to make it more effective. And it shows that baseline, that foundation that youth provide in our community for good work. And so when other youth see that youth are involved in this process, and when youth are getting other youth involved, it becomes contagious, and you see that empowerment, and you see that confidence being developed. And with that, it makes for a much more effective youth-led program. Anything you'd like to add?
No.
Okay. All right. That brings us to our exciting moment. We've been really looking forward to having you meet Alex. So Alex now is a senior at Ironton Catholic Schools. He has been involved in prevention for at least 5 years, particularly with youth-led. He is also a Sources of Strength peer leader. He recently, I believe in 2025, was the OPPA Youth Community Champion. He won that award. We're incredibly proud of the growth that we've seen in Alex, but we'd like to have you hear from Alex a little bit today on how he has been involved in youth led and how he has been involved in efforts that have made a big difference in our community. Hey, Alex, how are you today?
I'm good, Megan. Thanks for having me and having me speak for everybody.
Oh,
Um,
no problem. We're
like she said, I think I got involved about 4 or 5 years ago. I was at the very beginning of my eighth grade year, and I actually got involved because there was an upperclassman at the time, and he said, "Well, my school's 7 through 12, so I was with the high school at the time too." And we had an upperclassman, and he came to me and a group of friends, and he said, I think you guys would like this. I want to get you guys involved. Will you do it? At first we're like, yeah, sure, why not? I was wanting to get more involved in school anyways. I was really shy as a kid, so I wanted to start reaching out a little bit more. So I started with Red Ribbon Week, like assemblies at school, planning those, going to the elementary, leading little lessons about what Red Ribbon Week is and what it means to be drug free and all that. Then I decided to get involved with the youth council at the county level. And at the time, I believe the youth council was primarily in Lawrence County, but I was there when they started expanding into Scioto County. So that was really fun to see. But so youth council, my first thing on youth council was the our youth summit. It was an annual youth summit held in the spring, which has since been moved to the fall. But I was really nervous at first because that was my first time presenting in front of anybody, and at the time I was in eighth grade, so most of the people that I would be presenting to were actually older than me. So that was just a whole other layer of anxiety and worry. But I really felt like being involved with youth council and youth led prevention in general gave me the skills I needed to be able to present the topic I had, which I think was interdependence. But it gave me the skills I needed to present that topic and to teach that topic to a group of my peers, which were older than me at the time. Or I guess they still are. But so I think that was my first youth summit. And since then, I've been involved with 10. I counted on my fingers earlier. I've been involved with 10 youth summits. And they have Impact has branched out into Scioto County. They have their own youth summit now too. Then every spring we have a joint youth summit for both counties, where we all get together and talk about what's working in our schools, what we can implement, what we can see working in each other's schools, so we can bring them back to implement into our own schools. But I should probably explain what a youth summit is. The youth council gets together, and like Megan said earlier, it is made up of students from all over the county, all over all different schools. And each school is facing its own problem. Each school team will identify a problem it sees with its own school and come up with a plan to attack that problem and minimize it. So that's kind of the basis for what we do for our youth summits. We take what problems we see in our schools, we formulate lessons around them, and then present them to all of the other schools there. And like I said, it's really neat to see what schools are doing, what's working for them, what isn't. See that change that we're trying to create. That we tackle is called I think it's called, was it problem of focus or something like that. I don't know why the term isn't coming to me right now. But we take that, we get it from a survey that we take every year called the Oh Yes survey. And we use that to determine what the problem is. And like I said, that's what we formulate the lessons on. So I really think that gave me a lot of the skills I needed, or Impact has, to be able to present that, but just positive skills in general, like public speaking, confidence, leadership skills, just everything like that. Is
love
there
it.
anything
Thank you.
else that you'd like me to talk about, Megan?
I have a couple questions for you, Alex, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So, talk a little bit about the planning that goes into a summit, like kind of uh, the secret sauce. Like when you and the other youth council members are working together, what does that process look like to get to that end result that is one of the youth summits?
So usually we start a few months. I want to say a few months, but it's usually like 2-3 months. We start talking about it, getting together. First thing we usually do is decide on a theme, just, get some fun stuff out of the way. Decide on a theme, what we might want the decorations or shirts to look like, different things to give away. But usually in those early stages, we really start coming up with the ideas for what the lessons are going to be formulated around. And, not everybody's at every meeting, so it can be difficult sometimes to make sure everybody has an input. But we usually come up with a list of 5 or 6 different topic ideas or different theme or different lessons that we could present. And we either try to combine them or narrow it down to about 3 or 4, depending on what the schedule of that specific summit looks like. And over the next few weeks and the next few meetings, we really hone in on our presentations. We split up into groups where each, into groups of different, we try to get students from different schools, but sometimes it doesn't always work out depending on how many are representing one school. But we try to get a wide variety of people speaking on each lesson. And we really try to hone in and formulate our presentation, whether that be a slideshow, some kind of activity, some combination of the two, or something else entirely. We really try to hone in on our lesson and make sure that it is ready to be presented in front of everybody on the day of the summit. And like I said, there's usually 3 or 4 lessons depending on the structure of the schedule of the summit. And, we have lunch, and then we have games, and then we usually give the schools a chance to present some kind of talent or video or some kind of presentation of what they're doing in their own schools, something a little bit more school centric instead of, I guess, the whole county or whoever's in attendance at the summit.
Alex, I think Megan has another question. Would you be okay with me opening it up to see if there's anybody that would like to share out a question in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, if anybody has a question for Alex while he's answering 1 or 2 more of Megan's, if anybody would like to ask Alex, he won an award, people, right?
That's right.
Alex sometimes likes to brag that he was one of the first 8th graders that was a speaker. So, Alex, you're not going to brag on yourself, but I will brag for you. But I say seeing the change in you has been amazing, but you've been amazing since 8th grade, honestly. When we met you were already amazing, but seeing your confidence in that public speaking, like that first summit you did when people were like, that's an 8th grader? Like he's talking to seniors, that's an 8th grader. So yeah, he's a champ. If anybody has any questions they would like to share out, you can do so while Megan is asking a couple more.
Let's see. So I really wanted to see, like, if you could summarize, just, it doesn't have to be at length, but just what are some lessons learned, whether that's through summit planning, through participation in youth council, what would you say, like, top 3 lessons learned would be?
I think one of them would definitely be to care less about what everybody else is thinking. I know that first I really learned that because I know that not everybody is going to be invested in what the lesson is. Some people are just going to think it's dumb, and that's unavoidable sometimes. But I think actually interacting with those people and seeing that happen has given me a lot more confidence about not even caring about it, not even worrying that some people don't care about what I'm saying, what I'm doing. And I think that has been one of the biggest lessons I've learned from doing it. It's given me a lot more confidence in myself and what I'm trying to accomplish, trying to say. Another lesson I've learned is probably, this one's not as, like, I guess, personal, but try to stay on top of everything. I think it's made me more organized. I have a bad habit of procrastinating sometimes, so just trying to make sure I get all of these lessons done on time, getting all my slideshows made, or make sure everybody in my group knows what they're doing, or even other groups if someone were to need help. I think trying to stay on top of everything in a timely manner is another big lesson, and it's helped that I've learned from Impact, and it's really helped me in my schoolwork as well. And then you said 3 lessons, so I think the last one that I'll talk about is maybe don't be afraid to talk to new people. I've met a lot of close friends from Impact and from other schools that I probably would have never met if it hadn't been for Impact. And I don't know. I think it's made me more confident, more willing to reach out to people that I don't know and just be willing to talk to other people.
All right. I'm going to pick, I think we just have 2 in the chat, but Laura asked, don't you find that this process greatly impacted you, and how will this determine your future field of study? I know from talking to you the answer, but I'm going to let you say it. So,
And okay, so I'm reading it right now too.
okay.
I absolutely do find that this process greatly impacted me, and I actually decided. Well, I'm going to the University of Notre Dame in the fall to study psychology, and initially I wanted to study social work, but that don't offer that at Notre Dame. So it's okay because I can still get a master's in social work with an undergrad in psychology. And I'm thinking about going to law school as well because I'm really interested in the areas of law that deal with social advocacy. So right now, my plans are to get a bachelor's degree in psychology, and then get my MSW and or go to law school because I know that there are some law schools that offer a dual MSW JD program. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, and I don't think that I would have chosen that path if I hadn't done impact. Like I would have not been anywhere near it, I don't think. But I really think that's what I want to do right now.
Love it. Um, and then the next person asked, how are you able to help this be successful in the Catholic school system? Some of the concerns they found is whether or not a program meets Catholic social teaching. So I'll speak a little bit on that, Alex, and then if you have anything to add. Um, we have really great relationships with our school boards. And while this is a Catholic school, a private school in our area, it's also very well integrated with our public school systems. They do Quiz Bowl together. They work through the ESC together. They're very closely related with our other public schools. So I think my answer would just be strong relationships, and the guidance counselor there is just a champion for youth-led prevention work. So she honestly makes sure it happens. I mean, do we have to sometimes move meetings for mass? Yes. I mean, do we have to sometimes change the schedule? Some of our kids are even involved in like the funerals that happen and things. So I think just being flexible and understanding that like within a Catholic school system, there are different barriers, but having a champion there that really helps to make things happen. They go above and beyond to help us get in the school buildings. Did you have anything to add to that, or Alex, of how that works?
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of overlaps with what Impact is trying to accomplish with that is compatible with a lot of Catholic social teaching, specifically human dignity or dignity of life. I think obviously trying to help those struggling with substance abuse and mental health issues need our compassion and our support. And obviously, prevention is a little different than direct dealing with those individuals directly, but obviously there is a big overlap there. And there's a few other. I'm looking. I had them memorized for a test, but I have them pulled up here. So if you see me looking down, it's me looking at the list. Um, and preferential option for the poor. Obviously, it says some people need extra help. So obviously, it's okay. Like everybody makes mistakes, and according to Catholic social teaching, those people that need extra help should have the preferential option over those who may not. So I understand that there is maybe some contention in some viewpoints that maybe seem like they go against each other, but as far as I understand, there is a much more that would be I don't know, compatible. And actually, one of our my high school religion teacher was one of the um like she got trained with the sources of strength at the training. Isn't that right, Megan?
Yes.
Oh,
So I assumed if there was a big enough problem, she would have mentioned it in class or brought it up to us.
love it. I love that question. I really never had thought of that. We often think of like the crosswalks of like SEL and like the Ohio standards, but I'd never honestly thought of the Catholic social teaching. So you might be called upon to speak about that again soon, Alex, if there's other schools struggling with that. So
Yeah,
that's awesome.
sorry I couldn't come up with a more well thought out answer. I honestly I hadn't ever come across that before because usually if the administration says we can I don't know do something a program like Impact or Sources of Strength, it doesn't even cross my mind whether or not it would be because I would have just assumed it would have already been cleared with
Yeah.
the administration. So that's a good question though. I honestly I wish I could come up with a little bit more of an articulate answer for that.
I think you did great. Thank you. Awesome.
Is there anything else about your experiences and youth-led prevention or sources of strength that you would like to share with everyone today, Alex?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm open to sharing more, but there's nothing specific that comes to mind.
Well, we really much appreciate everything that you've done, not just for this presentation, but everything that you continue to do. We'll probably, for everybody's knowledge, we'll be talking about initiatives that Alex has been greatly involved in. And so we very much value his time, as we value all of the input from all of our youth council members. But Alex he's a rock star, and we're glad he was able to join us today.
Thank you for having me, Megan and Haley. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate the thought.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Alex. All right. So as we mentioned, we are in several schools, and one thing that we do in each school is we have a teacher that's kind of represented as our adult ally. So an impact staff member will go, but we also ask a teacher to be an ally with us. And this is kind of just the guidelines we give them. Number one is just to be present, to be there, fostering equal involvement. Man, that's hard as a teacher. I taught second grade for a little bit, and going from second grade mindset to going to a youth-led mindset, it was a big shift for me, just making sure that I was fostering that equal involvement. Being a guide, this is a big one, is running interference with adult systems. And we tried to break that down of saying that's not every single time, right? If we need permission to hang this poster, that's not your job. But if a kid is having difficulty and asks for your help, then it becomes your job. And just like when to let go, right? When do we step out and when do we step back in? But anytime they need help with an adult system, or maybe as a teacher not letting them out of a class for a certain thing, anytime a conflict arises, we ask their adult ally kind of step in and be in the wings, ready to help. We say documentation, but we've actually had some youth start taking this on, making sure that they're taking care of the notes, making sure they're doing sign-ins. But that's also just like a logistical thing for us, so we can know, who's there and what. Sharing your wisdom and experience, and then again, goes with the foster equal involvement, is embracing youth as resource partners. One thing we did recently is we did get our youth councils from both counties together. So we're talking about kids from 8 different schools, and we asked them, what is one thing that you wish the adults in your programming would stop doing? So we're going to do a quick like Family Feud style of who can guess the top 2 to 3 things that our kids said they wish their adult ally would stop doing. So if you want to take a minute and just drop that in the chat, what do you think our kids said were the top answers? Making decisions, speaking for them. Give it a couple minutes. Calling them kids or kiddos. Ooh, using slang, that's a big one that we as adults have talked about. Love it. So here were the top 4 that came up for us. And you guys kind of talked about it with saying like speaking for them. The number 1 was taking control. Quit taking control of the meetings, whether it looks like chaos and you're taking over for that reason. Waiting last minute. Man, I am guilty of procrastination. I try not to be with my youth-led teams, but they said waiting till the last minute. Picking and choosing certain kids. They felt like some adults in their lives were always picking the same kids for certain tasks. And then canceling events based on their own schedules. That was our top 4 from our kids. We're with taking control and, of course, speaking over them being the top 1. Now, if you were to just ask a kid to tell us, we do have kids sometimes say that's cringe, right? When Eddie says clock it, sometimes they'll give him an eye roll. But when we jokingly will say those things, sometimes they'll just give us like don't even try to go there. But we also asked them, what is something new that you wish your adult allies would start doing? So kind of Family Feud style. Again, if you guys would share out, what do you think they asked us to do, or they asked for the adults in their groups to do? And some of them coincide with what they asked us to stop doing, but some of them were totally different. Seeking input. Love it. Give them private times, supplies necessary, listen more, talk less. Love it. Awesome. Yeah, you guys hit it for sure. The first one was getting more participation from the kids. This second one actually was the one that surprised me the most. And it actually said more one-on-one time. Our kids are asking for more one-on-one time with their adults. They feel sometimes that their adults are too disconnected or they're just talking to the group, but they miss that mentorship, they said, of just that one-on-one time. Snacks always comes up. They're always asking us to make an extra dessert. Being more open, right? Being more open to ideas, not just getting stuck in the same things, but opening to new ideas, and then respectful to all kids and the youth. So those were just some of the thoughts from, again, kids from 8 different schools. It wasn't the same adult ally that any of them were speaking about, but 8 different schools. Just shows you some of what our youth are asking for in an adult ally.
Thanks. So evaluation. So how do we know what we're doing is effective? And we want to involve our youth into this process as well. So we know that there is science and theory behind youth-led prevention. And one of those, and I'm not going to go a deep dive into the strategic prevention framework, but that is one of the frameworks that we utilize in order to consider how we're going to work through an effort with our youth. And so we know that that first step being assessment, the last step being evaluation, those are really critical pieces. Alex mentioned that we look at, as a whole, we look at the Ohio Healthy Youth Environment Survey data when we're trying to determine problems of focus for the schools, for the summits, and things like that. So they're helping assess what's going on, but they also drive that evaluation. And in that, we want to know after major events and major activities, how did this go? Did we have those conversations throughout the process? So it's not just, it does say after events and major activities, but also during. So during those youth council meetings, we are connecting with our young people and saying, okay, how's this going? What support do you need in order for you to make this a successful event? So it's having those conversations. We're not just saying this is how you need to do it, and we're doing it for this outcome. We're doing it for that change. We're doing it because we want to have that partnership. But we typically will do those after those events or major activities, whether that is anecdotal or we actually collect after all of our events survey data from we use SurveyMonkey and collect outcome data from that. We also try to have those conversations at the end of the year and all of these things come together because we want to look back on what we've done and what the youth have accomplished. How can we keep the fun going? How do we keep that growth being shown? But how do we also pivot and change anything that we might want for the next year? So I'm going to use a really simple example of not necessarily related to the content of a summit, but we're going to talk at length about one of our youth summits. But one of the things that has always been our feedback is pizza is easy. So pizza is a really easy thing to serve for lunch at these events. Well, one of the feedback items that came from our SurveyMonkey was that one of the things that they would change about our summits is no pizza. So we got together with the youth council, and the youth council started spitballing ideas and determining what would be a good lunch to have for a summit. And they actually broke down considering, okay, this would cost this is portable, this doesn't make sense for this venue. And then when we changed our mind, we did sandwiches, then the feedback was that maybe sandwiches weren't a good fit, but they tried something different. And so this goes to show, so even though this is using food as an example, they're going through the process and through evaluation, understanding what ways that they can make changes if that's necessary, and ways that you can pivot to make those future outcomes. And that applies not just for that, but every single other lesson. So when they're planning lessons, they'll determine, okay, this session went really well. Here's what went well with this session. And here's why it was effective. Here's something that maybe we want to pivot a little bit. Okay, maybe that pivot, we need to pivot again. And it works out so nicely when you engage them in that process and have them participating in the evaluation. Anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think we'll cover some more when we get to ours for youth-led adventure for sure.
Okay. So some example events that we're going to talk a little bit about, and we're going to show you some pictures, we have youth summits. We have something called the Teen Leadership Conference. We have mindfulness and mentorship days, and then we have involved in all school sources events that we have helped facilitate. So these are some pictures from our youth summit. So Alex talked at length about our youth summits and how the planning went for that. And so you'll see they each will have a session. Usually there's a theme involved, and then they develop these lessons based on that data for their school and for the county on things that they believe would be effective that the community needs. And so really basing everything that we do on that needs piece. But we also want to make sure that it's engaging and fun. So it's not just that youth are designing these lessons, but they have the content involved with skill building activities and then a lot of fun. So we mentioned that we have a talent show, we have games, we have team building competitions. At one point we've had them submit videos of what is going on in their individual teams. We have photo booths, but all of this comes with the idea that the youth are building skills to youth for youth. This is not an adult-led program. This is something we have a role as an adult. So our role tends to be like running interference. It's helping secure the location, helping with logistics. But most importantly, one of the things to do is be a background character and be that support and let the youth really shine in these events. So we typically have around 100 to 150 youth from other counties, not counting the youth council or youth speakers. And they get the opportunity to meet like-minded youth from other schools through participation in this. That's what really makes this one of our unique strategies, is because they're not just functioning in a vacuum. They're not just functioning within their own school. They're able to connect with other students from other schools to see what's effective and how that might be able to be adapted.
Yeah. One thing that's neat about our youth summits, I know I keep going back to Christy's point of that ladder, but this is one strategy we've got to see grow on that ladder or climb that ladder. Because when we first started youth summits, it was an adult speaker and a youth helper. The next year, it was a youth speaker and an adult helper. And now, 5 years later, we're to the point where it's just 100% youth led. We are literally a warm body inside the door or beside the door there for emergency sake. And everything else from crowd control to games to lessons to PowerPoint is 100% done by youth led. So one of the reasons that Evie asked us to do this was to show you the youth led involvement in these big, large scale events. And we want you to know that, like, no matter where you're at on that ladder, if you're just starting out, it's okay that an adult is leading your lessons. And maybe the next year, your goal is to just give up a little bit more of that control. So as we're going through these different events we have, wherever you're at in that youth-led model, kudos to you, because we're continually growing.
Love it.
All right. The next one talks about TLC, or our M&M events. All these pictures are actually from TLC, which is our Teen Leadership Conference. So this is a weekend event, a Thursday to Saturday event, where we have 5th and 6th grade campers from our local schools. Their teachers bring them, and then the weekend is 100% ran by our youth staff, our high school students. And this one is one that takes a lot of planning. We require our kids to come to at least 4 to 5 planning meetings before, similar to the process that Alex described earlier. They look at the data, they see what is it our county needs, right? And that's when they learn the true definition of prevention is not telling kids in 6th grade not to vape if the vaping problem is there, but it's going down to that 4th and 5th grade and giving them what skills they need. So they get to look at that and they get to design lessons, they get to design the theme, and they get to 100% be rock stars and role models. One of our biggest outcomes from this weekend is, did you gain a positive youth role model? And the numbers are always skyrocket high. The role models that these kids gain from our high school staff is astounding, and the skills that they learn from them, with us just being, again, that emergency medical person in the back, is just astounding what they can do with just a little bit of planning and that implementation piece. The warm fuzzy, I know if any of you all were TI background, some of the warm fuzzy things came out of that era, but it's just a very positive weekend that kids leave just feeling important. We just recently had one last weekend, and the biggest message that our high school kids had for the elementary kids was be weird, right? Be yourself, be unique, be weird. It's okay as a leader to be yourself. So we don't have any pictures of the M&M events, but that is a little different. The mentorship and mindfulness days, that is just individual school based. They allow the high schoolers to go to the elementary school or the middle school, and they run kind of what we call like a mini summit for just their elementary school kids. So sorry, I'll try to speed it up.
Good, you're good. Then sources, events, and projects. So we do facilitate we help facilitate sources of strength in several of our local schools. I believe we currently are sitting at around 15. And with this, it's utilizing the sources program. We've talked, I'm sure that everyone has learned quite a bit about sources today. And I think that's fabulous, because I think it's just, I could speak the praises of sources all day. But the point of that is critical is that sources is a peer-led program. And so taking the step back and letting them have the space for these large-scale events and projects really allows the program to shine, and allows, but more than importantly than that, allows the youth to shine. So these are some of the projects that I have seen facilitated. So, well, starting from right to left, on the right, we have a mural. If you were part of my session last year, you might have seen this. This was something that was brand new. They determined that in their community, there was an antique store that needed a little bit of TLC. And they knew that one of the ways that they could brighten this up was possibly maybe making an interactive mural. Well, then they started talking and breaking down their strengths. How can this represent the strengths that we have as a collective? And how can we use this to make this positive change in our community? So they actually, and I it's cropped a little bit, but the wheel is actually beside this. And so people were able to not just get their picture with the butterfly, but also identify their strengths and say, okay, this is here. And it also builds that curiosity of what is the wheel and why does it have these strengths around it? Another project that has become it's a chain of events that has really grown, they call it the Sources Circus. And it's a school in Scioto County, and they develop strategies around each of the strengths in order to they kind of do those rotations. This is a picture from a color run that they added to represent healthy activities. But through that process, we've had students who started developing this 4 years ago that started in 9th grade, when every year this event has grown, and every year they become more involved in the process, and they become more they've developed those skills that make these events successful. And so this year, I'm sure it's going to be better than ever. And it was fabulous in the past several years. And so when you see that growth, when you have programs that start from the ground up, and you're able to see that through youth development, and the youth are able to share that with the adults, that really shows that has a lot of power in it. And then the other is a picture from a school spirit week. And Spirit Weeks, I'm sure if anybody has planned a Spirit Week of any kind, whether that's a Sources Spirit Week or otherwise, we know that those can get a little bit, what's the word? Nuanced. You need to really pick and choose your days appropriately and that kind of thing. But they were able to say, they were able to use the evaluation from other Spirit Weeks, so like Red Ribbon Week, Spirit Weeks, and say, okay, well, this is how we can make this more effective and how we can engage our strengths in order to have that message be delivered across the school. And so works very similar, but having that long-term buy-in from the schools and allowing the youth to use that buy-in is what makes a Sources event really successful in their particular context.
Awesome. So looking at all those different examples, looking at the big events, the small events, just 5 quick R's from Haley and Megan of how to have that youth-led event, how to make sure that youth are in that process. So number 1, we encourage our kids to refer to past events, refer to that last Spirit Week, refer to that last Red Ribbon, refer to something else that happened, refer to the data, look at other knowledge. We're not just going blind at this. We're looking at something to fix. So we're looking at the data, we're looking at past knowledge and really honing in on what it is we want to focus on.
We're going to relinquish all control. So that's one of the things that we have mentioned in the past or in the previous slides is our youth do not want us to tell them what to do. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't have to have that perspective. And so we are going to take a step back. We're going to be that background character, but we're going to provide that support and structure that they need when they need it.
Yeah. And I'd like for just to challenge your mind, and I challenge mine, is like, what's one thing that I'm holding on to that I could give to a youth, right? Well, is it note taking? Is it being time tracker? There's a job that you're doing that a youth could 100% do and own and feel empowered by doing. So think about the jobs and the tasks that you take on within your program. What's one of them that you could give up? Like maybe you're not ready to relinquish all of it, but just think of one task that you could give up for sure. And then one that I put in really big caps because reminders. If you work with youth at all, you know that they need reminders, right? As Alex shared earlier, we need those deadlines. We need to be told, hey, those PowerPoints, we can't just say, hey, by the way, have your PowerPoints in 7 days. No, we need, okay, 3 days out, 1 day out, right? Just giving them constant reminders, but not just reminders of things to do, but reminders of the fact that they matter, right? When a kid doesn't show up to a youth meeting, it's not like, hey, you weren't there. It's, hey, I missed you, right? Hey, just checking in on you, right? Our kids need those check-ins. They need reminders of timelines, but they also need reminders that they're an important part of our group and that we're looking for them to be there for sure.
Okay, rating readiness. So we really like our R's. In this case, we want to make sure that just like with a community readiness assessment with our youth, with our programming, we don't want to throw that, like just immediately when a person is just going into youth-led, immediately just dump them on their own and say, okay, you do it. But we're constantly, as an adult ally, looking with them, pairing them with other youth and saying, okay, well, you might not be ready to do this on your own right now, but you can do it with another youth. And Alex has been great at that. He jumps in and is able to be that youth who helps others develop those that higher level of readiness until they get to that point. And having that connection with the other youth and allowing them to help to develop that readiness is a great strategy.
Yeah. And there's several ways you can do that. Molly taught us one of her favorites is the fist to 5. Just a quick share out. If you were to have to do this tomorrow, right? From fist to 5, where are you on a readiness scale? And I can look at Megan and she's a 1, but over there we have a 5 and I can pair them up really quickly. If you want it to be more of a private event, we can rate 1 to 5 with Google Forms. You can have the kids write little notes. There's several ways to check for that readiness. And then last is that reflection piece. Again, Megan shared sometimes that's a survey monkey. Sometimes that's just a one-on-one, like how did you feel that went, right? And we do that for a couple purposes, right? We do that so they can evaluate themselves, but we do that so we can evaluate the whole event. And again, we're going to need that for number 1 in just a little bit, right? Whenever we come back to that event again, or whether we come back to another event, we need that reflection. It's a constant circle of coming back to itself.
I know you guys mentioned evaluations. Is there any like specific data point or metric that you feel like best demonstrates that like the program is working?
So for each of our schools, that's kind of different based on their problem of focus. don't know if Alex is still on here or not, but because Alex has been with us for so long, we actually just kind of celebrated with his school a recent data point that was changed. So the data point within his school that they had looked to change was a sense of belonging, which had increased, I believe, by 6%. I don't have it right in front of me. And then also having a trusted adult within the school system. Like I have a trusted adult that I can go to. And I feel like, I know for youth led, and I feel like with sources, it would be a similar data point, just having that sense of belonging and having that trusted adult relationship. And again, our kids really focus on that. They did like teacher trivia, they did just like advisor time with teachers, and they did several strategies trying to build that up. So those are two of the biggest data points, I think. Do you have any other that?
I think the sense of belonging is one that is a message that that spans youth led and sources both really nicely.
Yeah. And again, like Alex shared, we have the benefit of using the OES surveys. I know some people don't have that in their area. Sometimes youth themselves can create surveys. But I think checking for sense of belonging, one just says, do you enjoy coming to school? Which, to be honest, a lot of kids don't. But just seeing that increase at times makes you realize like something our team is doing is hopefully increasing that enjoyment at school level. So
If that's all the questions, then thank you again, Haley, Megan, and Alex for sharing. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you.